Okay, I want to talk about a few different things. You've mentioned rocket space a couple of times, and I'm wondering how many direct jobs have been created by rocket space coming to Calgary?
So Rocket Space is an incubator that works with companies.
And I'm asking how many jobs directly have been created by Rocket Space coming
Right.
to Calgary?
So again, with Rocket Space, we'd have to get permission from them to get the list of the companies that they work with, to then ask the companies how many have they hired and how they've expanded. So it's not to say that we aren't having those ongoing conversations, but the hard and fast job numbers are sometimes not as easy for us to get a hold of, because companies, if they don't want to disclose, they don't have to.
So is there any concern, because I know when Rocket Space came to Calgary, they were talking about how they wanted to consolidate the ecosystem for tech startups in Calgary, but we've got quite a bit happening already. One of those things is Innovate Calgary. Is there any concern that Rocket Space would take over some of the activity that was happening through Innovate Calgary at all?
No, I think there's a couple things at play that, having a number of different incubators and choices for companies is not a bad thing, especially when different times of the year, different incubators might be at capacity as far as the support that they lend. Rocket Space has a certain level of expertise. Again, being a company coming from the Valley is also significant. It also sends a message to the investors in Silicon Valley and other companies that Calgary and Alberta is a place to be, and so this is where there's significant advantages to attracting companies that are well known. So part of the reason that we're very proud of whether it's Amazon or Google coming to Alberta is that it's significant. But what it also does is it plants a flag in our province where other companies, investors, venture capitalists will say, hey, what's going on over there? Now, to your point, we do have quite a few incredibly successful tech startup companies, and we want to see them continue to grow and flourish. And so we view Rocket Space, I can say, as does Calgary Economic Development, as a beneficial addition to the ecosystem that currently exists in Calgary, and seeing it as a way to expand that ecosystem.
So my concern, when Duncan Logan was interviewed by the CBC before they came to Calgary, when they had made the announcement, he said really clearly Calgary already has a great tech ecosystem up and running. What we look to do is to pool that into one location, and I think that would create more of a monoculture rather than an ecosystem, and kind of defeat the purpose, because you would end up having the same sort of ethos from all of the companies in one location. So that's what my question is getting at. If we look to pool all of that activity in one spot, we really no longer have an ecosystem.
Right, and I mean, I guess just to clarify that we have no intention of folding all of our incubators into one entity.
Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that. I'd like to talk about the aerospace industry in Alberta. So the most recent numbers I could find, the industry represents $1.3 billion in revenue, 170 companies, and 6,000 employees. 40% of their production actually goes overseas. And I think there's lots of different tangents that are available from that. I know I've been speaking with some people at SAIT and with connections to chambers of commerce in China about aerospace trade with China, and we've already had a few conversations about that, certainly identifying that they have a lack of pilots right now. They also have a lack of airplanes and training for aircraft mechanics, all of those things. I think there's huge opportunity over there. I'd like to refer to a press release from a company in Calgary. It's called Wavy. I'm sure you're familiar with them, with their ConvergeX conference that's held in Calgary. Pardon me. So February 23rd was actually Canada National Aviation Day. I don't know if everybody has a pin for that one. And Wavy made an announcement talking about the development of an Alberta Aerospace Economic Trade and Innovation Zone. And I'm wondering if your department has had any conversations with Wavy or with the aerospace industry in Alberta generally generally about collaborating on this initiative?
Great question, member, and I'm glad you're excited about it because there's significant opportunities in the aerospace sector. So they actually had their annual conference in Calgary about a month ago that I spoke at and participated in, and had an opportunity to sit down with a number of different companies where we talked about their hope or vision for an aerospace corridor is how they're referring to it. To which, yes, that does fall under my purview and support from economic development and trade. And so those conversations have begun and are ongoing. I can't, commit as we're sitting here as to what that may look like or the support they may receive. But I can tell you that you're absolutely right that there are significant strengths that we already have in the aerospace sector throughout the province. And what I really liked about Wavy's idea is that they see it as a corridor, not just a Calgary or a one city. The one thing I will add that you'll find interesting is that there was EDT led a mission down to Chile not long ago. In fact, it was, I think, in the past 2 weeks that was the International Air and Space Fair in Santiago, Chile, to which 20 Alberta organizations participated in, and that was led by my ministry. Again, there is significant opportunities, and so we are working with them. But I appreciate you being aware of that and flagging it.
I think that there's a lot of upside potential for the province overall in that area, and I think it could tie into another part of your ministry, and that's coal. So we have this huge natural resource in coal, and I'm wondering if there's been any concentration on carbon fiber development, developing that technology from coal. There's so much potential, especially in aerospace, for carbon fiber to make lighter than air aircraft. I can envision Alberta being a leader in the world in this particular development of technology.
Yes, I don't know, John, do you want to comment on?
Sure. So, thanks, member. Thanks, Minister. There's a lot of work that's going on to look at alternative uses of, let's call them primary fossil-based carbon materials, and coal is among them. So I can't speak to a specific project that relates to coal, but I know our Alberta Innovates Corporation has a large science capacity in converting carbon into other things, as we've made a substantial investment with the federal government in a carbon conversion commercialization center in Calgary that's in partnership with industry and working closely with NMAX and others. So to your point about coal, I can't answer that specifically around a project, but I know there's a lot of activity both in the academy and further down that discovery through to commercialization, looking at alternative uses for fossil carbon other than igniting it.
Thank you for that. Honestly, I'm okay for this section of questions.
You know what? Can I just, member, if it's okay with you, I just wanted to comment. So a question that you asked yesterday about Aero Mexico, I have a little more information that, with your indulgence, I'll share with the committee. So you are correct that Aero Mexico, their flight was suspended at the beginning of April. But I can tell you that WestJet picked up that flight as their partner and has taken over it. There'll be daily flights by the end of the month in April. Part of the reason for this, and WestJet feels that they can succeed with direct flights because of a better cost structure, but also the emphasis of flying Mexicans to Calgary, where Aero Mexico is focused on getting Canadians down to Mexico. And so, but what I have been told by our airports is that these flight changes all the time as far as routes go, that they're not static, that this, again, this will continue. So Aero Mexico is no longer running the flight, but now WestJet is. So I just wanted to give you an update on that.
Great, thanks. I appreciate that.